We're We're so glad to have you with us today. Today, we're going to be discussing the power of branding, and we have a special guest with us, Christina Kokologiannakis, who is a real estate branding expert. Christina, welcome to Realty Funnels Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you with us. So you're focusing on agent branding. I think that is mission critical and probably something that not enough real estate agents really address in their business. Lisa?
Yes, we're very excited that you're here. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you become interested in branding?
Yeah, so it really just starts on how I got into the real estate world, right? So I was a corporate girl. I have a master's in taxation. I used to work for one of the big four accounting firms, and I got through the corporate life and I was okay with it, but it was a grind. Unfortunately, I was pregnant with my third child and he passed away at 30 weeks during pregnancy. And at that moment, I decided this is not the life I want. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. And that's what led me into real estate. So my first year in real estate, when I got into it, I was super pregnant with my third living child. And I was throwing everything at the wall. I was listening to everyone say, you have to do this, you have to do that. It was really difficult because it was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. The second year, the same thing. The third year, I said, that's enough. I'm done. I'm doing it my way. I was always successful in corporate sales. And I said, you know what? Do it my way, find my groove. That's when I started branding. And I realized what it is I had to do. The first year, my third year, the first time I started doing branding, I made $550,000 my first year branding. Still worked more than I wanted to, but I started getting the groove of it. Now I'm 8 years into it. I'm a top producer. I was featured in Apple News as one of the top real estate agents in California. And I've been featured in many other magazines, as well as now I'm an international trainer and speaker. But it all grew from that moment in my third year in real estate when I decided to build my unique brand. And that's what got me into it, is finding alignment and shifting into something that felt right to me.
You know, I find branding so fascinating. A lot of people just think it's a headshot, it's some color scheme, it's their favorite notions of a backdrop, but really it's about having the chops, understanding your skill set, knowing what to do when you actually pick up a client. And how does branding encompass all of that for you?
Yes. So that's so great because I get so many agents who are like, I have a brand, I have a color, I have a headshot, and I have a logo. I'm good. I'm like, that's not a brand. So there's different ways to look at brand, but I always think of like Lululemon or Coca-Cola or Starbucks. They evoke an emotion, right? People have a feeling around it. When I created my brand, and it's changed over time, but as I create it, it's how you actually step into the world, how people perceive you. When you're talking to someone, even if they haven't even looked you up, they haven't even seen anything about you, what feeling do they get? Do they feel safe? Do they trust you? Do they want to work with you? And I've had experiences just by talking with people, random strangers, where I get them to convert to work with me just because they already feel safe and they already trust me. And that stands on how you speak to them, what you say, what you've built, and how the confidence, right? And alignment. And that's so important in the brand. There's so many other elements, but those are the big ones.
You know, I think about here we are in Florida where we spend our winters, and there's a very well-known brand that has a big, huge presence in Orlando, Walt Disney World.
Yes.
And people think of Walt Disney and Disney World and Disneyland in California, and it's not just the familiar characters from the movies, it's also an expectation of the experience that they're going to have.
The happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny you bring it up. In about 2 days, I am leaving to go to Disneyland for a week. We love Disneyland. And then I come back for a week, and then I go to Orlando, and I'm going to Disney World. So we are huge Disney people, but what I love about Disney is they have decided in their brand, it's all about the story. How are we going to tell the story? So when you go to their theme parks, why people love it so much is it's a story. It's an element of stories. You're in the world. You feel encompassed. So when you're in there, you don't think about what you're doing outside and work and everything. You're all about the story and what it makes you feel and in the characters. This is what your brand is. right? When you're out in the world, I cannot show up on social media as like, hi, I'm Christina, hello, and then go to the world and everyone sees me like, oh, whatever, I'm messy, I'm dirty, I'm yelling, I'm crazy. You have to show up always. Your story is always you, and you have to show up the way you want. And that's why I say alignment is so important. I see a lot of agents who try to put a persona on social media that they're one way, but then when clients meet them, guess what happens? They're
Surprise.
like, yeah, the authenticity is not there. And they're like, wait a minute, I thought you were that person. Like, who are you? And then guess what? That seed of doubt is there and you can't get past the doubt. And then clients are like unsure. So when I'm coaching real estate agents, they'll ask me, I don't understand what happens. I get all these leads, but I can't convert them. So there's obviously a disconnect on the bridge from getting leads and lead conversion, and they're missing a lot of steps. And that comes from their brand.
It's so interesting. There are expectations of experiences. Real estate home sellers and home buyers have an expectation of their interaction with a real estate agent. And all too often, we know that real estate agents are caught with the deer in the headlights look. Yes. They don't know their local market area. They're not familiar with some of the big recent sales in the area. They'll go to a listing appointment and not have previewed any of the active homes around them. And that disconnect resonates, and it's very hard to get past that. So how do you help agents incorporate that into branding?
Well, the funny thing is this, I don't do too much of that, which you should be doing that, by the way, but there are times I've walked into an appointment, and I'm not joking. The sellers will like hold the paper and they'll be like, tell me about this sale. Tell me about that sale. And I'm like, oh, I don't know all of these. Like I know a few of them, but your brand stands on its own. So even in situations where I don't know something or I'm not as familiar, because sometimes I can't be as updated as I want to be, or I'm not sure where they're going to pull comps from, my brand stands there. And I say, well, I understand that. I'm happy to go look at it and get you more information. But when you're working with an agent at my level, you have to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean I need to know every single comp, but you know that I'm going to take care of you. You know that you're going to get the VIP service that's going to guide you through step by step. And we are going to sell your home your way where you're comfortable with it. And that's important. So the brand backs me up. And a lot of times they'll be like, okay, where it struggles for agents when I'm coaching them is if they don't have the confidence and they don't have a brand, and you go in, you sit in front of someone like that. They're like, well, tell me all about this. And then the agents are like, and what does that do? You don't have confidence there. They're like, why am I working with you? But if you had the confidence and you're like, look, I know I don't know all of them, but I know 4 or 5 because I wasn't sure what you're going to be looking at or where we're going, but I know it's going to compare to your home. And these are the ones I'm going to talk about because I know them. They're relaxed. They put their guard down. They're like, okay. And they've already seen that, hey, in social media, I've talked about this area. I've sold homes. Even if you haven't sold homes, I tell agents, if you're talking about the area and you're educating on social media, or there's things about you that you've had success, or you're in magazines, or however you want to build your brand, that gives them that confidence. They're like, okay, maybe they didn't know these 5 homes, but they know the area. Or I know that they're going to guide me the right way because they have good reviews, or whatever it is. If you're brand new, it's just confidence. It's like, just come in with the confidence that you got this. And it makes a huge difference.
That's perfect, because they say sales is a transference of energy. And if you can bring that confidence into the room with you, that puts everybody at ease and they want to work with you.
It is. And I talk about this. So I talk about the energy you bring. And some of my friends who are big energy believers, they claim they can see your aura. I don't see auras, but I'm an empath, so I feel it. Right? So a lot of times I can feel what someone's thinking and doing before they even open their mouth because I'm really in tune to it. But I tell people this, if you come in scared and you come in thinking like, oh, this is why mindset's so important. You come in thinking like, oh, they saw 4 other agents already. I know these agents, they're the best. I'm never going to get this. Guess what? You're not going to get it. But if you come in, I call it, so I'm actually a certified success coach. And one of my favorite things is I call it the Superman pose. And you put your hands on your hips, you stand out, you take a few deep breaths. Yep. And you breathe in and out. And you say, I'm amazing. I got this. I'm going to get it. I'm going to rock it. you take a minute, you calm down, you walk in with good energy. Guess what? You already have confident energy going into it. And tell agents, even if you don't get it, you just rocked it. You just left a great impression. And then if you don't get it, ask why. Go back to them and say, hey, I'm so happy you use Susie. She's amazing. You're going to have a great experience. I like to grow and learn. Can I ask you why you didn't decide to go with me? Because guess what? If you get that feedback as you're building your brand and you're going, you can incorporate that feedback and make that change. So you're always growing and changing. But you got to go with good energy. You got to go with mindset. I have in my training program, we'll talk about this, but I'm so big about mindset that I have a whole module just on limiting beliefs, self-talk, all this stuff that agents shut down. And a really quick side story about this. I was coaching an agent. She had 4 clients she was working with, couldn't get any of them to move forward. She was done. She was like done. She's brand new agent, just done. She's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, let's just work through this. Let's figure it out. And at the end of the day, we came to the conclusion that she's never told herself that she loves herself. So she had all this self-doubt, all this just bad energy. And I said, I want you to take 10 minutes sometime today when it feels right. Stop, pause, internally let your subconscious say, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're amazing. Let it just come. And I remember when I did that, I started crying. It was many years ago when I came to that realization. And she did it. And she called me 2 weeks later and she was like, I got my first deal into contract. Oh my God. And then it was the next one. And then it was the next one. She just was limiting herself by telling herself she wasn't good enough and she can't do it. So a lot of times we hold ourselves back. And when you build a brand, you can't hold yourself back. You have to really get out there and share everything.
That is amazing.
Great story. And I know it's so true that agents often will think, we're in a business, we're handling people's most valuable asset. I'm not going to get into that woo-woo over mindset. And yet Lisa and I believe that mindset is the thing on which everything else is built and on which everything else rests.
It's 100%. Like people ask me, it's so funny. I'll get people who are like, can you like slow down a little because you're making the rest of us look bad? And I laugh at that, right? And I think to myself, like the reason a lot of people are struggling is in their mind, they have a limiting belief. It's hard. It's difficult. Why should I push? Why should I do more? And one of my really good friends always reminds me, she actually coaches CEOs and top executives in corporate. And she's always like, once you're in momentum, it's easy to stay in momentum. But once you fall out of momentum, it's really hard to get back into momentum. And I love that because everyone looks at me and says, well, what you're doing is so hard, but it's really not, right? Because you're just kind of going. And so having the right mindset, having the right energy, having how you perceive everything, that is what's so important. And I feel like so many agents just hold themselves back by not shifting gears, saying, I can do this. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to learn as much. And I tell people, I fail all the time, like all the time. But I look at it and I find the golden nuggets and I say, okay, I failed. What can I learn? Like when you're building your brand, you have to test stuff, right? You don't know what's going to land with people or not. You have to talk to people and then you come back and you're like, that didn't really resonate well with them. I'm going to change my story a little bit. But if you don't try it, you can make something you think is absolutely perfect and it doesn't land. And that's why you have to be able to fail and have the mindset that I got this no matter what. I'm going to keep pushing forward. So, and whenever we get to it, I want to talk about the 5-year plan because that's important as well.
Wonderful. We love talking about 5-year plans. Most real estate agents can't look past the hood of their car or further into the future than lunch. And so, yes, a 5-year plan would be great to talk about. What you were mentioning just there, we talk about it in terms of there is no win or lose. It's always win or learn. And so if you're experiencing something that isn't the outcome you wanted, hey, you just bought yourself a wonderful lesson. Let's get the most out of that lesson. And then next time you're going to be able to win.
Yeah. And you have to, and I feel like too many real estate agents, they either get that fear where it holds them back, right? So that's, again, a mindset, right? We have to work through that. Or, and this happens, I have to say this probably happens to 90% of agents. So if you're watching this and you're like, this is me, it's okay because it's a lot of agents. You try one thing, Let's say you do door knocking and you do 10 doors. Then I hear this. Oh, I tried it. I did it so much. It doesn't work. And I go, wow, how long did you do it? Well, I did it yesterday and I did 10 doors and nobody responded. So I'm never going to do it again.
It's like 3 feet from gold.
Yep, 3 feet from gold.
It's one of those, it's like, okay, you're one door knock away from landing a listing. Like you're one phone call away. What happens really is they're not in alignment with themselves. So I will door knock. I enjoy it. But it's like for me, as I have 4 kids. I have 4 little kids. So I will take them with me and I'll do door knocking. But it's not my like thing where I really enjoy door knocking. I will cold call. I was in corporate America. We had to do 100 cold calls a day. I can cold call, but I don't like to cold call. Where I find alignment, this is what I tell agents, find your alignment. I run seminars. I am phenomenal at seminars. And when I first started real estate, I did a new buyer seminar and I would fill them up and I got 4 or 5 leads that I actually sold at each and every seminar I did.
Stay in your, yeah, that's your strength zone right there.
It's right. And so you have to find you. And so I talk a lot about finding that alignment when you're building your brand and how you want to talk about it. Because if it's not in alignment and you're, let's say you see someone on TikTok and they're a really famous agent and they have 1 million people or whatever, and you're watching their videos and they're doing weird, crazy things, but that's not you and you try to do it, people feel that. It's like friction, right? And then you don't feel good because it's not working. You're not seeing results. And then you stop. And then guess what? You don't move forward. You don't get the sales. And I keep trying to tell agents, you have to find alignment because once you find alignment, the doors open. I always say, I forget who says this quote, but I love it. Success is all around us all the time. Good markets or bad markets. All you have to do is board your boat, cast your sails, and ride the waves. The question is, are you willing to do it?
Absolutely true. And anyone can do networking and marketing and make it fun. If you're doing something that you're interested in, like I'm a CPA too. And what I used to do to bring in clients, I had a Tuesday evening ladies networking night every week. And I had my list of people and we got quite a huge attendance and everybody enjoyed it. And I got a lot of clients that way. And it was something that we all enjoyed and the energy was good and we all look forward to it.
And you got to meet a lot of local small business owners.
Oh,
You were having the networking event at local restaurants.
It helped them because we talk a lot about a win-win too. Mm-hmm. So it helped me and it helped them and it was just fun and it was a win-win.
And that's your branding, right? That's your branding. They know that you do these events, that you come, and the way you show up in the events makes a difference. Like if you're door knocking and you're just like, hi, I'm Christina. I'm a local real estate agent. Will you sell your home? Or are you going to sell your home? It's like, no.
Door gets slammed.
Yeah,
they're like creep. They're like, oh my gosh, like no. And I get people at my house all the time who do that. And I'm just like, can I give you advice? Like it's horrible. But what you do instead is I actually, if I'm a door knock, I have a piece of value. And of course, it has my branding all over it. So they can go stalk me on social media or on the internet and see who I am. But it's like, hey, if I'm targeting homes that haven't sold, then I have one that says, hey, my home hasn't sold. Now what do I do? And I have a cool little book that I print out for them, right? Or if I have, if I'm just welcoming myself to a neighborhood and introducing, I have a neighborhood guide. And I give people that and say, hey, I'm a local real estate agent in the area. I have a couple listings down the road. I have this cool little guide. I know you've been here for a while, but not sure if you know these places. And I put local restaurants. I put some cool things. And then I talk about myself and what I do and how I can help. And it's a cool little story. But have something, not just a flyer saying, here's your values, but where's your story? Where's your brand? How do you want to stand? And that I think so many agents forget. And it's not talked about, to be honest. Nobody in brokerages, I actually go out and I speak at a lot of different brokerages. I have one at the end of March where I'm going to go into this big brokerage and I'm teaching about branding and everything. Nobody really talks about your brand. They say, get a headshot, get a color, get a logo, and that's it. But it's like there's so much more. So when you go out in the world, it's consistency throughout. So when you're door knocking and you're handing this and then they look you up online, they're like, oh, wow, this person's really cool. Maybe I don't have a need now, but oh, my friend does. So I'm going to give it to my friend, right? There's so many cool things that can happen, but if you don't do it, nothing happens.
What I see often too is that agents are either they haven't thought through everything about branding, or they're inconsistent with their branding. So on their lawn sign, their branding looks one way. On their website, it looks a different way. On their business card, it looks a completely different way. My experience is that that breaks down or erodes trust, perhaps unconsciously or subconsciously in the minds of a prospect. And yet, by having a consistent brand, a consistent look on lawn signs, perhaps on the side of your car, on the marketing materials inside of your open houses, on your website, on your lead magnets, on the materials that you leave behind, that unconsciously is increasing their trust in you, because you look like you have the whole package and that you are a real pro. You have processes and systems, and in the residential real estate space, that's all too often unseen. It's sort of like, wow, how unusual. This person must have systems in place, because everything looks consistent across all of the marketing.
It is. And you know, the funny thing, it's like, imagine going to like a Starbucks. Every Starbucks is the same, virtually the same. You walk in, the cups are the same. The storefront looks the same. Everything's the same. Could you imagine you walk into a Starbucks and you're like, is this a Starbucks? And you're like, it doesn't look right. The cups aren't right. You're like, I don't know what this is. You know, you would actually pull back. You'd be like, that's weird. I'm not going to go in there. Like, I don't know what that is. It's because every Starbucks you go to looks the same, feels the same. And yes, some are laid out a little differently. But when I walk into a Starbucks, it's a Starbucks. I feel the Starbucks. Too many agents, like, here's my biggest thing. Stop branding your brokerage. Stop.
Right.
Brand you. Your brokerage is amazing. Brand you. Because at the end of the day, like, it's funny. So for me and my clients, we have a disclosure that comes in after we're in contract about my brokerage. And it says, you know that you're with this brokerage. You might be using third-party people with this brokerage. The funny thing is, I get a call, and even though I tell them, I still get a call. They're like, who is this brokerage? What is this? I thought I'm working with you. I go, that's my broker, right? Because I never sell myself as a broker. I said, remember, that's my brokerage I told you about, but we just have a disclosure just in there, but you're still working with me. Because when I brand myself, it's me. I'm powered by EXP. That's my brokerage. But I am me. So when they're working with me, that's what they know. Too many agents go and they brand their brokerage. And unfortunately, too many of these brokerages require you to hang their sign to match all the rest. So everywhere you look, it looks like one brokerage, right? Everywhere. Mm-hmm. But you don't get yours. So when people see me, they know me and they're like, oh, I saw your sign. Oh, I saw your sign. And now I have them so well. I get people who will text me and be like, oh, congrats on your listing. And I'm like, oh, that's not my listing. But they saw something that looks somewhat similar to Kokologiannakis. They just looked really quick and they're like, oh, that was you, because it had similar coloring or something. They don't even think about it. That's good branding. When some random person is like, oh, I saw you again. And you're like, okay, it's not mine, but thanks. That's good.
That's awesome.
Lisa and I often talk about the importance for real estate agents of building a real business, one that is reliable, efficient, attractive, and lucrative. And for years, we owned our own brokerages, and we had agents in multiple states, and it was a fantastic growth opportunity for us over the years to grow our own branding. And then over time, we were actually building an asset that had value and was marketable and saleable. Yeah. And all too often, real estate agents are building a job, and the last listing they take, the last buyer that they work, is the end of their job. And yet they've had all these years where they could have been building up a valuable brand that they could then parlay to a next generation real estate agent. They could transition out, have an earn out, have a real asset of value. And you can't do that if you haven't been spending the years building a brand.
And systems, right? Mm-hmm. It's the brand and the systems. And I talk about CRMs and how to set them up and the functionality and why they're so important. If you don't have some sort of a system to help you, so I can brand all day long. But if I'm not tracking leads, like I honestly get leads who just call me. Like I had one call me out of the blue. I set up a buyer consultation and it was funny. I was like, do you want me to go in? Because I always ask them, like, do you want me to go more into detail on how I can serve you? And they go, this is their comment I always get. No, we already know you. We've looked at everything. You're pretty awesome. Like, no. And then I'll talk. And here's where a lot of agents struggle. They can't get the buyer broker agreement signed. So then I talk to them and I go, okay, so it sounds like we're ready to move to the next step. Is that correct? And they're like, yes. I go, so my next step is to sign the buyer broker agreement. This is agreement between you and I, and then we explain what it is. And then I say, so in order for us to move forward, you're going to have to sign this agreement. Are you okay with that? And guess what? When you have the brand and the system and everything, there's no doubt they say, yes, please send it over. We'll get it signed. I sign all of my clients. I don't work with someone unless they're not signed. So you need a system and you need branding, right? Because let's say he's like, oh, I'm not ready to buy yet, but I have, 4 or 5 months from now. Are you going to forget about them or are you going to remember them? The system makes a difference. So building a real business, I talk to a lot of agents. This is a business. It's not something you do on the side unless really it's something you just do on the side. So we keep it as a business. I talk about how you need to have an LLC set up or some sort of a corporation set up when you make enough money, but you have to treat it like a business. You have to invest, get a coach, do trainings, right? Figure out what you need to learn to grow. And I tell people, I have coaches, I do trainings. I'm always learning. I'm always growing, but that's how you advance. That's how you build the road to get on the path you want. And we brought up the 5-year plan, and the 5-year plan is so important because how do you know what you want to do if you don't know where you're going? And I'm writing a book on this, on the 5-year plan, because it's huge. We were a little more lucky. We get to see some pretty big real estate agents who have had massive success in 5 years. When you see what can be achieved in 5 years, you're like, wow. But it comes down to having the massive dream of what you want. For some people, it can be just like, I just want to be able to afford a Tesla. Or some people are like, I want a yacht. I want to be able to buy, like a $20 million yacht. Whatever it is, it has to be big enough. But then you have to track back and say, okay, each year, how much growth do I need to get there? And then when you track that back, you're able to track what are the 3 items every day I'm going to do that are going to ensure that I'm going to move forward and not get overwhelmed by this to-do list and make sure that I'm growing and tracking my progress to ensure that I reach my 5-year goal. Because too many agents don't build a business. I tell them they get stuck in the black hole, right? It's the hamster wheel. You do really good 1 year, but guess what? If you stop, you make nothing and you got to do it again and you got to do it again. And then one day they wake up and they go, I hate my life. My husband or wife has left me. My kids don't know me. I live and breathe my clients. I don't want to live like this anymore because they're stuck in the void, in the black hole. So you got to create a real business with systems so that you can step back. And I've done that with the branding in place. And I work 15-hour weeks. I have really high lead conversion and I'm able to enjoy life while I make a lot of money. And now I get to coach and speak and train and do all the other stuff I love as well, because I have the time to do it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, this is
amazing.
fantastic.
That's
This
amazing.
is so great. We could obviously talk with you all day. We love your energy and we love everything that you're sharing. You have an upcoming agent brand building seminar. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So in April, I'm going to be doing my Agent Brand Academy. So we've already launched in January. Doors are closed. We have our first group of agents going through the program. And what it is a digital course, a digital training program that teaches you step by step how to build your unique brand so that you can see 60 to 70% increase in lead conversions. I get 90% lead conversions. So imagine if you increase your lead conversions, instead of having 100 of leads you have to go through, what if you only had to go through 20? You close 4 of them, and a few months later, you close 4 more of those 20. You're not killing yourself trying to find leads. Instead, you get leads that are not muddy. I call the Zillow and all these other leads muddy. You get real leads who want to work with you, who convert at 60 to 70% higher because you have a brand. And I teach you how to build all that and see the lead conversion. So that's coming up in April. But I tell everybody for right now, follow me on Instagram. And that's at Christina_Kokologiannakis, and you'll see more information. And as we start getting the wait list going and some other things, you can join. But I do give a lot of information out. I have free masterclass that I run and free trainings. Or if you're just like, I'm struggling and I'm stuck, can you just help me get going? I always offer free advice. So you can just send me a DM on Instagram, and I'm happy to help whoever needs it.
And you're also going to make a certain resource available to those listeners and viewers, and talk a little bit about that. And then we'll make sure that we have a link below for that.
Yes. So I'll get you a link. So what I have, which is an amazing thing. So branding starts with understanding your story. Okay. When you have the right story, you can take a large story, you can make it really small, you can change it. If I'm talking to someone in the corporate world, I'm going to talk one way versus someone else. If I'm talking to a stay-at-home mom, it's a different story. So you need to know your story. So I have a freebie that I will give to all your listeners. Right. And it's how to build your empowering story. And it's actually a workbook that takes you step by step to build your story. This is going to give you enough that you can start working on it. But I have to say, just because you write it down doesn't mean that you have a good story. You have to go out and test it and come back and tweak it and try it again. So I say in the workbook, go out and try it. See how it lands, right? And even if you don't get the listing, you figured out why. Then do it again and keep going. So I'm going to make that resource available to all your listeners, and they can start working on their empowering story.
And if you happen to be listening to our podcast, you can go to realtyfunnels.com/branding, and we're going to make that resource available for you as well. realtyfunnels.com/branding. We'll have Christina's resource available for you to just freely download. Christina, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
It was wonderful. So much great information. We just really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Bye.